All right, Topic Tuesday. This is from Duke. So, Duke is our fourth year medical student that's helping us out on our Topic Tuesday. And he wants to share some facts about the TEE that we talked about a week ago, the transesophageal echocardiography. And his question was TEE allows us to get high resolution images of the thoracic aorta by using a probe that travels through what structure? Anybody remember? I think I just said it. Goes through the
I
esophagus.
was gonna
Definitely doesn't
say,
go through
is
your
it the
trachea.
esophagus?
It is the esophagus. You're so smart. All right. So this week, he really wanted to share an article from the US FDA regarding a topic that has been discussed and often debated within the community, and that's radiation exposure. I've seen people put up posts that say, did you know a CT scan is the equivalent of 84,000 x rays? 50 million dental x-rays. It's so jarring and alarming. And it all goes back to let's get some real stats. Let's get some real important information. So this is again from the FDA, and really what he talks about is uh, prior weeks we talked about CT scans using a series of x-rays to create cross-sectional imagery of the body. And sometimes your doctors may actually opt in to do it with contrast, which is an iodine based dye, which helps better visualize all of the vessels and the lumens that are in your aorta, as you can see here. So it's showing you, this is a perfect picture of a dissection right up here. False lumen, true lumen. Look, this is beautiful. Look at that. I mean, it's so sad to look at that there's a dissection, but it shows you so clearly. And that's what you're going to get from your CT. So one of the risks that, what we're talking about here is that there's this overwhelming radiation exposure and your risk for developing cancer down the road. So the reasoning behind this fear is because the high dose ionizing radiation, such as those used in chemotherapy, can cause damage to the DNA cells, which may cause them to develop into malignancy. However, it is generally believed that the probability of absorbed X-ray directly induced cancer or causing mutations in your DNA is very small when you consider the low amount of radiation that's used in a CT procedure. Other feared risks, such as skin injury or reddening, are also very rare. So, in fact, at the time that this article was written that Duke referred to, no major study had actually ever proven that there was an association between CT radiation exposure and the development of cancer forming mutation in your healthy cells. So, there is nothing that's been done that's showing what people are trying to put together that I read on the internet. But one's risk of actually developing cancer from radiation really it depends upon your so many different factors within the within your body. It's the area of the body that was exposed, it's your age during that exposure, it's your gender, and it's the dose of radiation. Now, a lot of people in this community, we go in for low dose radiation CTs, low dose CT scan, and you can make sure that that's what you're being given. That's typically what we're receiving. And here's going to be a table that's going to actually summarize the dose of radiation exposure in different medical tests. This was a study from a Dr. McCullough at the Mayo Clinic. So I'm not really understanding the MSV, but I'm just looking for these little teeny numbers. So here's a chest X-ray versus a lumbar spine versus a CT of the head, chest or abdomen. So you see the coronary CT angiogram is looking like it's the highest exposure. Again, everything comes down to cost benefit. If having this test with this exposure, which does not mean that you're going to get cancer down the road, if that's going to put you in a position where your life is going to be prolonged because they're going to be able to diagnose something, then you have it. You have the test done. So as they say, so CT of the chest, which was a 7, and the abdomen is an 8, for scan in the aorta would range from 7 to 8 MSV of radiation, and most tests do not exceed radiation effective dose of more than 10. So it's still below the more common dosing. So for context, an exposure of such a dose to is estimated to increase the probability of malignancy by 1 in 2,000. To compare the natural risk of cancer in the US, it says is approximately 4,000 of 2,000 or 1 in 5. So this means that the risk of radiation exposure during these tests leading to cancer is much smaller than the natural risk of exposure that you can develop cancer over your entire lifetime. So you have to remember that we're being exposed to this type of radiation every day, just in general living life. There's radiation. There's radiation off of your cell phones, your microwaves. I mean, every single test we have to have done has a degree of radiation in it. The sun, there's so much that gets put off into our environment. But um, so when factoring in the combined natural risk of cancer, 400 out of 2,000 in the US, and the mildly added risk of CT radiation exposure, 1 in 2,000, the risk of developing cancer actually increased from 400 to 401. So that's how small your chance of developing cancer is from CT versus just the natural risk of developing it. So the decision to undergo a CT scan and the amount of radiation used is highly tailored to each patient and will actually include an evaluation of their age, their risk status, and their therapeutic benefit of the test that they're undergoing. So for younger patients, particularly those needing a CT scan of their abdomen or pelvic area during pregnancy, dosage might be adjusted according to the decreased lifetime radiation exposure to the patient and or a fetus. So lots of thoughts, lots of things that go into making the determination on the dosing, the exposure rate, and if you're going to have a test to begin with. But be sure to always talk to your doctor prior to your radiation exposure. If you have any fears, if you have any questions, that's the time to talk about it and let them alleviate that for you. This post is just supposed to be a conversation piece, give you some scientific information that you can then also take back to converse. Look, at the end of the day, if you need to have a scan, you need to have a scan. In our community, if you're having your annual scan, you should also ask your doctor if you're feeling uncomfortable about maybe having an MRA, which does not have that type of radiation because it's all done with magnets. But doctors have different preferences and there's different reasons for using different tests. So share this information with family, friends, share it with your doctor, ask some questions, and hopefully people won't be thinking that when they get a CT scan, they're now walking around glowing. I mean, maybe you are at
Hmm.
night, but I doubt it. I
So we're
doubt it.
talking about 402,000 to 401 of 2,000.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
Pretty much. It went up by one.
By
Very small.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's small.
Who was
I
it
don't
that
know
was
what that
saying
small
something
means.
like the amount of radiation you would get from smoking a cigarette or something like that?
Yeah, that was another one. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. We're all exposed. I don't know how you compare that, uh, the radiation of smoking versus a CT scan, but you're going into the ER for a possible dissection. They're giving you a CT scan
Hmm.
for many reasons. It's quick,
Very.
very accurate. Even if you have an allergy, the amount of time it takes to be pre-medicated and then have your scan, you'd still be in the MRI machine.
Hmm.
So that's kind of why they do it. Thoughts, lots of thoughts, lots
Yeah.
of decision making. Yeah.